Welcome to Laugh Through It All. I'm your host, Tracy. Join me as I sit down with a dating and relationship coach to talk about everything from online dating fatigue to becoming a magnet for the love you actually want. Thank you so much for joining me. Me and my girlfriends, literally, we talk about this so much, the online dating in real life, meeting people in real life. It is
Mhm.
struggle is so incredibly difficult, as I'm sure you know, since it's your job. But what do you say to people who say there's no good, we'll say men in this case, or no good
Mhm.
people left? What do you say to that?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I'm sorry you're going through that. I'm sorry the people that you know are going through that. It's not unusual. And what I usually will say is that it's usually those first interactions, the first impressions that you're not liking.
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is that that person for the next date or the next date or the next person they meet is going to be the right person. But whatever it was within that interaction that you're having with them, it's not clicking. And so it's not the number of people you see. It's not a numbers game. It's a depth and emotional connection game.
Yes.
And unfortunately, when you have so many racked up bad experiences where first impressions fall flat, it can really start to make you jaded. And so the opportunity is going to be to really look at how can I not settle with just any old person who comes to talk to me? How do I get a little bit more clarity on who am I looking for? How do I want them to approach me? How do I want to approach them early on so that I'm not using my first few dates as a way to filter through people, but I can actually connect with people, match with people that seem like only go out with the people that actually seem like there's some quality there and some depth there. So I'm not wasting my time.
So now, just you talking made me come up with so many different questions. Chemistry. First one is chemistry.
Yeah.
I 100% think that there needs to be that chemistry on the first date. Some people think, no, that grows over time. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, I need that attraction type thing at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that for a lot of people, there is like the forefront of attraction, like looks, what they put on their profile, basic data that you have on them. And then there's that emotional and intellectual chemistry. And then there's also the physical chemistry, right?
Yeah.
Like the sexy chemistry.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the sexy chemistry can happen when you have the emotional and intellectual chemistry early on because you're excited, you're like really intrigued by the person. And I find that especially for women, but also for men, surprisingly, it's really important to get that butterfly feeling with the emotional intellectual connection even before you physically meet. Because a lot of time there's a fear of connecting emotionally and intellectually because you're worried, well, when we meet in person, what if when I touch their shoulder or their arm, I'm not going to feel the chemistry? But what gets lost there is that you're just waiting for like one thing to spark and then the next, when it's actually like a conversion of all of those things, like an overlap of all of those things that's going to give you like that real chemistry that's the long lasting chemistry. So I don't know if I'm running in circles or not, but
No,
tell me
no,
if
no,
that made any sense for you.
no, absolutely. But how can you put the point out that you're not looking for a hookup, even though it may say that you're looking for, long-term relationship on your profile?
Mm-hmm.
The people are still coming at you as if this is going to be a hookup. And
Mm-hmm.
how do you get that message across without sounding like a prude? I mean, I'm a sexual being, but I don't want you to get that impression before we even go out on a date and get
Yeah.
the impression that I'm going to sleep with you on the first date. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want I want the fun night more than one time. I don't, you know what I mean? So how can
Mm-hmm.
you put that message out without sounding like a prude?
Yeah. So this is not going to be what you want to hear. I don't believe in putting that message out at all because what you're ultimately potentially indicating to this person is that I'm willing to settle with whatever you are. And that's not attractive. They
Right.
also want somebody who's got standards, who's evaluating them. And by saying you want to get serious right away, you're just saying, I'm good with whatever you got. So instead, consider that while you get to keep your boundaries, you don't have to have sex in the first few dates. You don't have to have sex until you're ready. You
Yeah.
don't have, you can flirt and you can have fun, and that doesn't have
Yes.
to mean that it's not going to go anywhere. But as soon as you start talking about, well, I'm only looking for someone who's going to get serious with me, then you're ultimately saying, I've made a judgment about you and I'm ready to go. And I'm expecting you to already make a judgment on me. And you should be ready to go, even though you've only known me through a couple of dates and a couple of profile clicks. So it's almost like you're asking for commitment before you really know much about this person.
Well, I think like for speaking of my, for myself, I want to have that fun, loose relationship, but I want that message to be put across. Like, I'm not just looking to go out and have a bunch of sex. So
Yeah.
that's really the message. How do I give that message? It's not that I want you to be in a committed relationship with me right away. And that's, you know what I mean? That's my long-term goal is to find someone, date, have fun, see if we're a match, and then build a long-term relationship. So how do you make that message instead of I'm just out here looking to date and go out and have fun and
Yeah.
sleep with you and then move on?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
100%. So this is
Okay.
where this is a conversation I love because I call this allure and attraction and confidence, and the sexy part of you that gets to say that, yes, you can have a part of me that is fun and exciting and exhilarating and alluring. And I have enough confidence and respect for myself to know when I'm going to say no and know when you can have and can't have. And unfortunately, sometimes the language that we use
Yeah.
pushes them away, right?
Yes.
And so instead, think about how can I come across in a way that says, like, okay, I'm not opposed to this. I'm not saying that I'll never want to have this to you.
Yes.
And this is an energetic thing. This is a sort of a like a tango, if you will, or a dance that you have with your flirtation, your confidence, and
Mm-hmm.
sexual appeal that also constantly indicating that, like, hey, by the way, you only get to go this far. Sometimes it's communication, right? Like in the heat of the moment
Yes.
when you're making out, you can also say very politely, like, that's it right now. I want to go more, but I'm not there yet. Has nothing to do with you. Or it can also just be like an energetic thing with body language and things like that.
I like that I'm not there yet. That way they know you're open to it, just not right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
like
And you,
that.
you
I'm not there
constantly
yet.
want to be thinking about how can I let this person know that I'm not closing the door on them just because there's one or two things that I don't like about them yet, or that I don't know about them yet, or that they don't know about me. Because the first handful of dates, and it's different for every relationship. It could be a few, it could be a few months, all right? But it's always about setting your best self and your best foot forward, right? And allowing them the opportunity to put their best foot forward in front of you as well, because they've got the nerves, they've got the awkwardness, they also don't know what they're doing sometimes. And so allowing them in over and over again while still kind of being in that evaluation and that fun and that sort of, hey, we're just kind of getting there mode really lets them play to their best self and show up for you in their best self.
Right. Yeah, I think it took me a very long time to not be the chaser. It was definitely something that I had to learn also to let them come
Mm-hmm.
to me. And that's big. And I'm going to say the online dating world too, is because if
Mm-hmm.
you're always, waiting for that, reaching out with that message and you're not getting things back. I used to take it so personally. And
Yeah.
now I've learned that no, that's just it's not always going to work out. Not everyone is going to have the best intentions.
Well, their intentions might be just fine. I think there's like out there in the dating world, and I'm not just meaning you, in general, there are so many judgments and assumptions that are being made based off of whether or not they messaged you back, whether or not you were ghosted, whether or not their profile picture shows this, or that, or whether or not you said the right thing. To be honest with you, the most important thing to remember is that the dating apps and those first few messages that you send to someone is no different than hitting on someone at a bar.
Hmm.
It has so little value on the potential depth of that relationship. And yet, our nerves and our stressors and our desire to have a partner stress us out so much that we can't see beyond those things. And it's only after you keep setting yourself up as a very open and inviting person that things can change.
Now you mentioned ghosting. What do you say to people who have been ghosted or, I guess burned, so to speak, over and over
Yeah.
and over again? How do you stop them from being jaded and continue to be hopeful that they'll actually find somebody?
Yeah. Yeah. I hate that that happens. And it does hurt. It hurts so bad. It's like little mini breakups over and over and over again.
Yes.
And so the short answer is try your best to not let it mean anything about you because that person knew so little about you. And for them to ghost you means that it's more about them than it is about you. That's
Hmm.
the sort of succinct way to look at it, right? That's the overarching concept. However, in practice, it is not that easy. And
Right.
so the work that I do with clients is often this practice of building back the importance of who you are outside of this dating, outside of these relationships. You can do tons of things to make yourself feel better. You have probably a support structure. And if you don't, then you should think about who are the people who can make up for this ghosting for me, right? My friends, my family, my loved ones, my colleagues, all these people who are already in your life that value you and care about you, that is when you lean on them. Because the more importance we give to this guy, this person who like dissed you, ghosted you, whatever, the more we're saying that that little part of my life has more value than everything else that I'm about.
Right. Well, because you internalize it so much, you start to think, okay, what was the one thing that I said, what was the one thing that I
Yeah.
said that made them, because this has happened to me several times where I literally will go to bed and the last message was from them saying, um, can't wait to see you on whatever Friday, and I'll talk to you in the morning, and then you wake up and they're gone. Like they unmatched you. And it's just when
Mm-hmm.
that stuff happens, there's no, and you're left with no explanation. And so all you do think is, what in the world could I have done or did they think about to all of a sudden go from planning a date to wake up in the morning and they unmatched you?
Yeah. So, again, has something to do with you. Some other shiny thing got in the way.
Yep.
And what I often encourage women, and a lot of the women I work with are independent, they're
Mhm.
educated, they know how to do things out there in the world. And so don't allow yourself to stop being you in the dating scene. If that person didn't message you in the morning, there's nothing stopping you from saying, "Hey, what's up? Good morning. How's your day?"
Mhm.
And
Well, no,
being
they like
yourself.
unmatch. The one I'm speaking of in
Ah, okay.
particular, they could you wake up and they're completely gone. They
Yeah.
unmatched. It's
Yeah.
just there's no rhyme or reason to it.
There isn't. And that's just it. There is no rhyme or reason. And that is unfortunately a consequence of what dating apps are now.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that you have to do it. It doesn't mean that it will happen over and over again. But the more you do it, the more you have to take a look at how am I going to keep putting this aside so it doesn't affect the next person I talk to or my ability to keep dating. And that's again more of the work that I do with clients is like, hey, we got to learn from what happened.
Right.
And then we got to say, we're going to set that aside and have a blank slate again so we can show up as our authentic selves, be in your essence, and then allow the next guy to show up as himself rather than making up for that last person who ghosted
Right.
you.
So women, like a lot of people listening to this podcast and a lot of my friends are all, say 40s and 50s and maybe even
Mm-hmm.
beyond, who are starting over in the dating world. So what
Yeah.
would be some advice you would give those people to where they don't feel so scared about doing it, but more on the excited, more excited about it?
Yeah. So many things. First and foremost, do the work to heal from whatever you came out of. I have been divorced. I know that it took a certain amount of time meets healing work, meets therapy, meets coaching, like all the things, right? Like
Yeah.
really make sure that you now feel whole and complete and ready to be a true partner. And it can happen simultaneously. You can get your feet wet with dating and still be healing. That's okay. But just know that, like, your next partner, if they're going to be as great as you are, they deserve you, not
Sure.
half of you or a portion of you. And then, it can be scary, especially if you've never online dated before, because
Mhm.
I do think that online dating is not the only way that you can still go out there and hit it off with people, but it's a great way to just make acquaintances, make connections, have conversations casually with actually very little risk because you don't have to continue talking to that person online.
Right.
Just like they may ghost you, you can also do the
Yeah.
same. And you are not responsible for their feelings either. Like they should not take that personally if you don't like them after 2 pages of seeing information about them. But what I will also say is that dating when you're over 35, even I'll say, right? Because most of my clients are 35, 40, 50, is believing again that it's actually possible to
Mhm.
have a real true love the way you've always wanted it. Not a compromised one because you're older or because you're hurt or you have kids or you're unemployed or whatever is bogging you down is often keeping you from believing that the real, true, amazing life is there for you. And so it's going to be, again, work that we do that gets you to say, like, oh, I am deserving of this. It is still possible. Like, I can have a guy like show up for me exactly how I want him to. Yeah. Like, I hate to say it, like, and I don't mean to say that we're not going to keep our smart hats on, right? Like, you're
Right.
still going to
Right.
be logical. You're still going to be smart. You're not going to go off into la la land, but you deserve everything you'd want. And what would it take for you to believe that again? Not you, but everyone.
Right. Sure. Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
What do you think now? Because I have a pretty hard boundary about dating people that are newly divorced.
Okay.
Um, what is your advice on that? I mean, like me, I've been out of a marriage for 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've done the healing. I've done, so much work.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a different place than someone who is, newly divorced, just getting out on their own, and they haven't been on their own for years. And I know
Yeah.
there's exceptions to the rule. There might be someone who's out and ready to get right back in with somebody else. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, yes, you are a good catch. You are so introspective and intuitive, you specifically.
Oh,
And I really commend you for that. I
thank
think
you.
that's going to make your future partner like just all that much more lucky.
Thank
Um, but you're right when you say that there are exceptions because there are no rules. And,
Sure.
unfortunately, my response is always like, there are no rules. I think the most important thing to recognize is that if you want it or don't want it in this case, then that is something that you should hold strongly and commit to and say that that's okay, that that's my preference. And that means that I'm going to say no to certain people, and
Right.
that's okay. Now, someone else might say, let me give it a shot this week. And they may learn a lesson from that, or they
Right.
might meet somebody really great. But I think really listening to your intuition, really listening to your real desires, not just the desires that come from let me hurry up and find someone, but like really understanding like why is this so important to me? Oh,
Right.
okay, well, healing work is really important to you. So clearly that is on your checklist. Like they should have had time to heal, or whatever it is in your own words. But similarly, there are going to be a lot of things on anyone's list that have to be adhered to if you really truly believe in them. And it's really going to be important to look at like not only what is it that I'm looking for, but why, and then how am I going to actually find that in a person? Because you might find that someone 9 years in is still not healed as well. So it's going to
Sure.
be important to say like, what does that actually look like in the man, who maybe just hasn't healed from like the kid drama or whatever else, but yet someone just a year out has been ready for years because he meant to leave that marriage years ago and has done the work, right? Like I feel like I was ready pretty soon after I left my marriage because I had mentally started
Sure.
healing and checked out, right? So it's so different.
So how can you tell if someone is healed? Like if I was looking for
Yeah.
someone who I wanted to see if they are healed from their traumas, what would be something I could look for?
Yeah.
That would be
Well,
a
again,
good
it is
indication.
going to vary so much, but one thing that
Sure.
I like to always emphasize is like, what is the moral and the value that you are looking for in this person?
Okay.
That maybe indicates to you healing, maybe indicates to you personal self growth and transformation. And once you hone in on that value that it is to you, right? So, like for me, it's safety, security. For some people, it might be humor, lightness about their personality. And
Okay.
so, once you hone in on that deeper thing, that why, then you're going to be able to say, okay, well, when I'm out with this person, did I recognize those things? Because then you also don't have to go out and have conversations about the healing process and what it's
Sure.
like, been like, right?
Yeah.
Like you can actually make it about something else and still discover something really deep about the person.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
No, I like that. Sometimes I think I also look for red flags so quickly.
That's okay. Everybody does that.
Because it
Yeah.
does, because there again, I've done this now for years, and it's like you look for those red flags, and like I'm not a big drinker, so I don't want someone that's a big drinker. And
Hmm.
so if I notice that there's a pattern of them doing a lot of drinking, I don't drink when I'm at home. I wouldn't
Hmm.
want to sit around with someone who drinks, beer all day on a Saturday and Sunday. That's just not me. And so
Yeah.
that would be like a red flag for me. But what if this person was wonderful in every other way? So
Hmm.
I think I struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So I would encourage you and everyone listening to write down that list of everything that you want in a person. A
Okay.
moderate drinker could be one of them.
Okay.
And I would say make it a goal to come up with like, for some people, it's very hard to even come up with 20 or 30 things. But sometimes it helps to just make the list over the course of a week and just keep writing in, keep writing in. And then, so this is an exercise I do with clients. So a little bit of a treat here.
Little freebie.
Hone in on that list and start clumping it together with the morals and values that are associated with that particular desire and need that you have
Okay.
from that person. So moderate drinking, what does that represent? For some people, it might represent um, spirituality. For some people, it might represent healthy habits. For some people, it might represent um, morals or values related to like how you present yourself in public. But what you're going to start to see with your list of 20 or 30 things is that it all starts to condense into maybe 3 to 5 things that are
Oh,
actually the
interesting.
most important values and morals that you're looking for. And now drinking is an interesting one, right? Because then you have things like alcoholism and stuff like that, which are
Right.
always going to be red flags, abuse, poor treatment. I'm not talking about those things being
Same.
acceptable.
Right.
But
Right.
what I am talking about is saying like, because it sounds to me like when you bring up the drinking, you're like, yeah, but maybe they only do that when they're nervous. Maybe they only do that on special occasions. Like, what if as a life partner, they're not like that? And you're
Right.
only going to know that when you start honing in on those other qualities that you're looking for in them and not allowing this one potentially small thing, also potentially large thing, but this one thing as being your red flag that dismisses them forever.
Forever. Yeah. Yeah. I think I do. I mean, because now I'm to the point where I'm cautious. It's
Yeah.
like I've been through enough, and I'm thinking, okay, do I really want to deal with that when I know how much that would bother me if someone was you know what I mean? Just an example. If someone was a big
Yeah.
drinker.
And remember also that that caution, I'm not saying dismiss it because we all have, I like to call it instinct versus intuition.
Okay.
Your instincts for fight or flight are the most dangerous in dating because they will have you running for the hills way before you get to know the person.
Oh,
But when
so
your
true.
intuition is working, that is when there is that real voice that's saying, something's not right here, or I can push a little further and tolerate this. Because when we act from the flight and when we are so like nervous, and I think you said critical, or
Mhm.
um, I can't remember the word you just used, but you were like,
I don't
when we
remember
start
either.
to, we'll rewind it later.
Yeah.
But when you start to become really like nervous about whether or not you're making the right decision early on, and then you're worried about having too much fun because like what if it leads them the wrong way? You're taking the power away from yourself to say no at any given time. Women walk away from the altar. You can walk away at any time and be yourself and give that real version of yourself if you have the confidence to know I can lean in, I can fall in love even and still walk away when my intuition tells me that this is wrong.
Yeah.
So building that confidence in your intuition is going to be a huge part in successfully dating when you do have nerves and jadedness and all of that.
And where, like, as far as online dating and where people are meeting people, like for someone, for me, I don't go out very often.
Hmm.
Uh, I do the online because I work full time. I've got kids, and
Yeah,
and then I do the podcast and some other social media stuff. So I really don't have a ton of free time.
yeah,
Where do you suggest meeting somebody if it's not on?
yeah. So it doesn't sound like you have a lot of options.
No, it
So
doesn't,
there's
and I
two
hate
things
that.
here. Yeah, so there's two things here. Number one is make the apps work for you. So it is very important to take those app connections and turn them into phone calls or video calls and turn them into not just like, hey, where do you want to meet so that you can hear their voice and stuff. Like, no, make them into phone call, video call dates. And that way, in
Okay.
the comfort of your home, you are not wasting too much time getting places, getting dolled up, whatever, but you're having a chance to intellectually and emotionally potentially fall in love with them, even in the first conversation, get super excited, learn something about them, make them fall in love with you is always the goal, number one. And then go out and spend the time and energy to like go out on a date when you're very scrunched for time already. That's one piece of it. Again, most of my clients are like this. It's like we have full lives. Like we're not just sitting around waiting for guys to show up or ask us out or sitting at a bar all evening waiting for someone to hit on us. Like time is very limited. However, what I will say is that it's just like your partner is going to need a portion of your energy and your time in the future when they become the love of your life and they're living with you. Similarly, think about how might I expend that same amount of energy and time looking for that partner? Because if you don't carve it out now, it's going to always come across to that future love of your life that this person doesn't have space for me. And I find that especially for men, and I don't mean to generalize, men want to feel welcome and invited and
For sure.
allowed into your space, especially the good ones, because they don't want to be the ones that, encroach on you out of respect,
Hmm.
especially if you're a mom and you're independent working woman. The good ones want to allow you space, but if they don't see that they have a foot in anywhere, it's going to be really hard. And this is not about literal time on your calendar. It is usually about energetic space, energetic time. Thinking about dating just as much as doing the dating, allowing it to be a part of who you are, practicing your feminine energy. All of those things don't have to actually take up calendar time, but they are the energetic things that put out to the guys out there that, like, I'm ready for you. Come on in.
So, how do you exude like the confidence and that you can handle yourself, but still be give the message that you still want someone to, now this is just like for me, I, I can do all of this myself, but I still want that manly man. I need someone who's more of a man than I am, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Who I mean, I guess is a little bit more assertive, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
yes, I can handle it all, but I want you to see that I need this stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a struggle too, is if men will see, well, you can do all this yourself. What do you need me for? Well, God, no,
Yeah.
I don't want to give you that message because